presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are Ohio.
On this 4th of July, our nation's birthday, number 240, here in 2016, and we'll celebrate it in Chicago at Wrigley Field and the start of a 3-game series, Reds and the Cubs, here on Fox Sports Ohio. And hi, everyone, and welcome to Wrigley Field here in Chicago. 4th of July, we hope you're having a good holiday weekend. We hope we can make it a little bit better for you with a Reds win here today. I'm Jim Couch, along with Chris Welsh and Jim Day. And Chris, we get to the ballpark today, and big news right off the bat, the Reds have made a change in their coaching staff.
Well, they have, Jim, in a year in which the Reds front office has asked everybody who follows the Reds, including obviously their fans, to be patient. They ran out of patience with the pitching coach, Mark Riggins, and Riggins has been relieved of his responsibility as pitching coach. They're going to move Mac Jenkins into that spot, and that's the first of probably some changes we're going to see between now and the end of the year.
We were able to get comments from both the manager, Brian Price, and the general manager of the Reds, Walt Jocketty.
Extremely difficult decision, and one that really has been a challenging one because Mark has done really, I think, a really good job. He's busted his tail for the organization, and he's been with us now for 5 years and spent a lot of time with the young guys that are currently with us. And, we know obviously the struggles of the pitching staff, and I think we all take ownership, myself included.
It finally came to the point where we just felt that looking at the numbers based on where the staff ranked overall and so forth, we just felt it was time to try and do something different.
So Mac Jenkins, who's been out in the bullpen and been with the team for a number of years, takes over as the pitching coach, and Ted Power will come up from Louisville and become the new bullpen coach.
Well, I'm glad to see Ted back in the major leagues. I think he deserves a shot at that. But don't expect major changes immediately just because you change pitching coaches. The fact is that most every pitching coach says the same thing. Every batting coach says the same thing. It's the guys that are on the mound that are doing the throwing and the pitching that are going to determine how smart Mac Jenkins is as a pitching coach.
Well, the Reds then start a series today here in Chicago at Wrigley Field against the Cubs. A Cubs team, Chris, that comes home from a long road trip. They come home from New York where they were swept 4 games.
Yeah, their tails are between their legs right now. Remember that they beat up on the New York Mets last year during the NLCS, but they were not very happy with the way things went. They had 2 very close games in New York. They had 2 blowouts, including yesterday's game. And their 2 main pitchers, Jake Arrieta and John Lester, were both handed their lunch in their starts at Citi Field. So this is still a very good ball club. The Cubs play very well at home, and they're looking for a team that they can beat up on a little bit. Maybe the Reds will be able to get in their way.
Well, the 4-game losing streak for the Cubs equals their longest of the year. Meanwhile, they will look to right-hander Kyle Hendricks to stop the losing streak.
If you look at Kyle Hendricks and you rate him out on a scouting scale, none of what he throws is going to be a plus major league pitch. He only throws about 90 miles an hour, but what he has is very good control. He's got a nice changeup. He works both sides of the plate. He keeps the ball down, and he's fairly efficient with his pitching. So he's, for a guy that is not overpowering, has certainly overachieved here in his short major league career.
Well, one of the guys that they'll have to face, who was out of the lineup yesterday, back in there today, is the power-laden Adam Duvall.
Well, when Adam Duvall gets it going, he's as good a hitter as there is right now in baseball. Let's face it. He hits the ball to all parts of the ballpark. He's very tough to get inside on because he's got a short swing. And it's all about pitch control and strike zone control for Adam Duvall. As long as he doesn't get home run happy and start chasing those pitches out of the zone, he's going to be just fine. Right now, right in the middle of just about every rally the Reds have put together.
Well, the Reds will counter with the left-hander Cody Reed. Reed makes his second start against the Cubs, and that last time out was not a good one.
Well, it wasn't. Remember, he's just 23 years old. In fact, he just turned 23 this baseball season. So he's a very young guy. He's a left-hander, which sometimes takes a little longer anyway. I'm not worried about Cody Reed. When you scout him out and rate him, he's got a plus fastball, a plus slider. He's got a changeup that is a work in progress. So I think Cody Reed is just going to be fine. But he is a young man, yes, you're going to have to be a little patient with because you're going to see some good things, you're going to see some bad things. Overall, it may not work for him this year, but this guy's going to be a fine major league pitcher.
Well, this Cubs team certainly uses the long ball to their advantage, and they have a couple of the best ones against the Reds, Rizzo and Bryant.
Well, these two guys are young players. They're going to be around a long time, and if you're going to pitch for the Reds, you better figure out a way to pitch to both of them, because Rizzo and Bryant together are a whopping lefty-righty punch. I don't know if there's a better one in baseball right now on the same team. Rizzo kills the Reds, as you can see with the 6 home runs he has had so far against the Reds. And then Chris Bryant, well, when he hits them, they go out of sight.
Well, all right, it's the Reds and the Cubs today from Wrigley Field on the 4th of July. We hope you're having a very good holiday weekend, maybe grilling out, maybe having a good time with the family here this weekend. We'll take a break. When we come back, a hot bat for the Reds also goes behind the plate. Tucker Barnhart with Jim Day when we come back.
glory and that giant flag unfurled by members, men and women, of the military and many veterans on the field. America's pastime being celebrated on this Independence Day 2016. Happy birthday, the greatest country in the world, the United States of America. Throughout the day, we're going to look back on some of the best moments in July 4th over the years in Major League Baseball. And perhaps the most iconic, July 4th, 1939, Lou Gehrig's famous speech.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
On July 4th, 1939, Lou Gehrig delivered his farewell speech in front of a sold-out crowd at Yankee Stadium. Nicknamed the Iron Horse for playing 2,130 consecutive games, Lou retired after being diagnosed with ALS. He was just 36 years old.
Cincinnati Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio is brought to you by Chevy. Check out their award-winning lineup only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. By Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time. Wrigley Field here in Chicago. The Reds haven't been here since the early part of the season, back in April. They unfortunately lost all 3 games there. They'll visit here over the 4th of July weekend and be back here in the second half of August. 3 trips, 3-game series, each of those trips here to Chicago in 2016. Cubs taking the field, and there are representatives of the military out at each position, greeting the Cubs players as they come out there with a baseball. You can see them getting some autographs, special uniforms being worn by big leaguers all over Major League Baseball today. We celebrate the 240th birthday of this great nation, the United States of America. Take a look at our Elk and Elk storyline for today. The Cubs at home, the best home winning percentage of all time for Chicago back in 1935, but this 2016 team is creeping up there. They have the best home record in the National League at 25-11, a .694 winning percentage, trailing only those teams back in the 30s. And they need to get something done here, talking about this Chicago team. They've watched their lead dwindle, and I say dwindle, Chris, 12.5 games down to 8 games today. They built up a cushion. As it turned out, they needed it over the weekend.
Well, I don't think that there's any panic yet on the part of the Cubs players, or certainly the manager, Joe Maddon, but there are some whispers around the fan base wondering, we had such a big lead early in the year, playing great. Now you've got some injuries. You're still missing some big parts of the lineup, like Dexter Fowler. You've had a couple of their ace pitchers, Lester and Arrieta, struggle recently. And when you're only 8 games up, you're a bad week away from really losing the lead, because remember, the St. Louis Cardinals have a pretty good ball club. They just didn't get off to the kind of start the Cubs did. So, I'm not so sure they're looking in the rearview mirror yet, but this is a very big series for the Cubs, taking on the visiting Reds, who do not play well on the road. If the Reds can put 2 or 3 good games together right here, you don't know what's going to happen to this Cubs ball club.
Well, let's take a look at the lineup for Cincinnati for this, the 84th game of the 2016 season. They line up like this: Cozart, Suarez, and Votto at the top, Bruce, Duvall, and Phillips in the middle, Hamilton, Barnhart, and the lefty Cody Reed batting ninth and doing the pitching for the Reds against the right-hander Kyle Hendricks.
Hendricks not an overpowering guy at all, not all that imposing out there. He doesn't throw hard, not big and strong and mean. But what he does is really controls the strike zone with a couple of different pitches, a fastball, changeup primarily, a get-over type curveball. But his control is his calling card.
Cozart had a ball in the strike, comes into the game hitting .264 with 11 home runs, 33 runs batted in. Good to see him get 3 hits in the game on Saturday at Washington. He had come into that game 1 for his last 29. He went 3 for 5 Saturday, also had a hit yesterday. Candelario, the new Cub third baseman, makes the play there. And that's the way this game gets started. Let's take a look at the Cubs setup, brought to you by your Ford dealers. They line up like this. Chris Bryant, normally at third, is out in left field. Almora in center, Hayward out in right. There's the new third baseman of the Cubs, Candelaria. Russell at short, Baez at second, Rizzo at first. A battery of Hendricks and the catcher Contreras. There's the third baseman, the new man down there, Jeimer Candelario, just called up 2 days ago from AAA Iowa. He's actually played at AA and AAA this year. He takes the place on the roster of Chris Coghlan, who went on the DL 2 days ago with a rib cage injury, and it seems like they have a stockpile of young guys down low when they need them.
Yeah, well, we've seen some of the ones that they brought up here to the major leagues that have already made an impact, like Chris Bryant over the last couple of years, but they've got a new center fielder out there. For the most part, Albert Almora Jr.
They got a new third baseman. So one thing the Cubs are not afraid to do is to bring up these young players, because what you're doing is exposing them to a winning environment. And that is a big thing when you're a youngster. To come up here, they don't lean on you to be the middle guy in the order. They don't lean on you to be the closer or the setup man. They just kind of mix them in here and there and say, this is the way you do things on a winning ball club. And the Cubs have a chance to do that with their youngsters now.
You're right, though, about them having to mix in a lot of these young guys, in particular in the outfield, because they are, when you look at their DL list, it is heavy on the outfield. Dexter Fowler out with a right hamstring injury. Tommy La Stella, who can play infield and outfield, out with a hamstring injury. Jorge Soler early in the month of June out with a left hamstring injury. And now Coghlan, who can do both infield and outfield, on the disabled list with a rib cage injury.
Well, the Cubs have jumbled up their lineup a little bit today, and the Reds, I guess you can say the same thing by Eugenio Suarez batting in the second hole and Joey Votto going back to number 3. Bruce and Votto going back to back. Rare do you see Brian Price lineup having 2 left-handers in a row.
Sounded like it went off the end of the bat. It's going to flare out to center and be caught. Javier Baez, that's a terrific play out in shallow center field with his back to the infield, hauled it in.
You know, big league second baseman and shortstop and wide receivers make this play look awfully easy, but this is one, if you tried in your backyard, you're going to miss it probably 8 out of 10 times. Baez, a very good young athlete.
So Kyle Hendricks has gotten the first 2 here in this game as he faces the Reds for the second time in a week. He was a starter and winner last Wednesday at Great American Ballpark. The wrap-up of that series against the Redlegs there. Reds lost that game 9-2. Hendricks went 6 2/3. Allowed 2 runs and 8 hits in that game. Here's a guy that has done well against Hendricks, Joey Votto. 4 out of 6 with a couple of home runs. Votto at 253, 14 long ones. He's driven in 40. He had a nice series in the first leg of this 3-city 10-game road trip in Washington, going 5 out of 11 with a home run. What a nice looking uniform that the Reds are wearing today, isn't it?
Yeah, the Cubs have a celebratory uniform that they're wearing, especially when you look at the back of their uniform, and the Reds as well, celebrating this 4th of July. I like that look.
Different hat look today for all teams as well.
That's a key pitch right there for anybody who wants to try to get Joey Votto out. You've got to be able to control the inside part of the home plate. And Hendricks comes in there with a little fastball with some backup action on it, but not enough. Contreras tried to frame it, but he could not get the call. So now if you come out over the plate, Votto, good chance he's going to hit a line drive. So the other thing the Cubs are using right now is their third catcher, Wilson Contreras, behind the plate. When the Cubs came through Cincinnati, he was playing left field.
They have Miguel Montero. They have David Ross, 2 veterans, and now this young guy here, Contreras, who figures to be down the road an everyday guy.
He's got a very good arm, Contreras does. He's still learning the nuances of receiving the ball, framing a little bit, working with the pitchers.
That is ball 4 to Joey Votto. Cubs got an appeal to third, but did not get the call from Ron Kulpa. And so Votto is on, the first base runner of the game.
Usually when you see this in replay, the batter almost always goes, with the exception of Joey Votto. He's got about as good a bat control as you will see around Major League Baseball.
So Votto walks for the 55th time. He is now 4th in the National League in walks, giving Bruce a chance here. Well, the runner aboard, 2 out in inning number 1.
Mentioned earlier about Bruce and Votto going back-to-back in the lineup right here, lefty-lefty. I think the reason they've done that here against the Cubs only have 1 left-handed pitcher in the bullpen. So you don't feed into their strength by having a couple of lefties back-to-back in the order.
They join the Reds in that department.
That's the one fear that managers have. Dusty Baker did it a lot. He just did not. There's a left-hander.
Travis Wood
down there. And you know, you don't want to feed into maybe a bullpen that has 3 left-handers. And you get a real little rally going in about the 6th or 7th inning, and they bring a left-hander in, and that lefty can face both of your hammers in the lineup, Votto and Bruce back-to-back. But when you only have one down there, Travis Wood, you know, you can only use him once. So that's when Joe Madden has to use that left-hander, and that's why I think you're going to see double up maybe the whole series here with Votto and Bruce.
Well, we say they can only use them once, but in that long 15-inning game at home, they put Wood out in left field. They took him from left field to the mound, back to left field, and back to the mound.
The old American Legion move.
Yeah. Three and two now to Jay Bruce. Jay at 268, 17 home runs, 60 runs batted in. Look at that big difference with the bases empty and runners on base. He is 3rd in the league in hitting with runners in scoring position. I mean, it's been a total turnaround for Bruce this year. Votto on the move. This ball is going to be playable in right for Hayward to retire the side. The Reds leave a runner, 1/2 complete on the 4th of July.
Just learned that, you know, you got to be a little better at the strike zone, you know, commanding all your pitches, throwing all of them for strikes. And I did that a little bit with off-speed stuff my first start, and got ahead, you know, a lot of guys first pitch strikes, and now you really can't get behind because you have to throw fastballs and hitters counts, and they're looking for stuff like that. So they put it in play, and just things haven't been going my way, but I'm just trying to get the ball every 5 days.
There's Cody Reed talking about facing the Cubs again. Chris, we'll call on your playing experience. Did you like to face a team in back-to-back games?
No, it's always difficult to do that because the first time you sneak up on them, and the second time they pretty much know everything you've got to do, and you think that you need to make everything extra special. In the case of Cody Reed, though, it's a matter of really trying to slow the game down. Remember to breathe. Just use your natural stuff. He's not nearly as bad as he was, you know, in that loss to the Cubs last time. But you just can't rear back and fire it up there like you did in Double-A. They'll feed on that 93, 94-mile-an-hour fastball. So you keep the ball down, you use your slider, and with every pitch, you throw it with full conviction and confidence.
Ball and a strike to Javier Baez, getting things started for the Cubs. Cozart will make the play, and already a better start in this game than last Wednesday when the Cubs got the first 2 on before Rizzo hit that inside the park home run. Take a look at that Cubs lineup put forth by Joe Madden here on the 4th of July. Baez, Bryant, and Rizzo at the top. Wilson Contreras batting cleanup, then Russell, then Hayward. There's Candelario batting 7th. Hendricks, the pitcher, 8th, and Albert Almora Jr. Jr. in the 9 spot. Here's Chris Bryant. What a series this guy had against the Reds last week in Cincinnati. I mean, he had 8 hits in 15 at-bats, 2 home runs, 6 runs batted in, including that 5-for-5 game, in which he became the first player in modern baseball history to have 3 home runs and 2 doubles in the same game. He had a full house.
Well, I mean, where the Reds pitched him in that game, he ought to hit that ball that hard. I mean, after all, they laid it right in there about belt high, right over the center of the plate. You've got to be able to do a couple of things with Bryant. And you just saw Cody Reed change speeds with that changeup. That has to be a big pitch for him going forward against right-handers. Bryant's got a big swing, got good plate coverage. You just can't pump him fastballs.
You saw those numbers, what he has done against the Reds last year and what he's come out and done against them this year. 442 with 7 home runs, 18 RBIs this year against Reds pitching. I mean, the Cubs have 24 home runs against the Reds this year, 13 of them between Bryant and Rizzo, who's on deck. There's Anthony Rizzo. He figures to be the starting first baseman for the National League All-Stars coming up in, what, 8 days? Those All-Star teams will be named tomorrow night. In terms of the voting, we talked about it last week. I mean, to tell you, there are, what, 5 Cubs that lead in the voting right now at their respective positions.
Well, if it's a popularity contest, you give the edge to the Cubs.
Which it is for the starters. It's ball 4. Take a look at the Reds defensive setup, brought to you by your Ford dealers, Duval, Hamilton, and Bruce in the outfield. Left side is Suarez and Cozart. Right side, Philip DeVotto. Battery made up of Cody Reed and the hot-hitting Tucker Barnhart. He had a nice series in D.C. against Dusty Baker's Nationals. He's in the lineup again here this afternoon. Here's Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo got off to a great start in that game against the Reds last Wednesday, when it turned out he hit an inside the park home run. That's when Billy Hamilton and Adam Duvall came together in left center field. Billy ended up getting hit by the ball, the side of the head or in the high cheek area. But he was back the next night in D.C. 1 ball, 1 strike. Rizzo at .282 with 20 home runs, 61 runs batted in, and this is what he's done against the Reds this year. A lot of power, not much average. 6 of his 8 hits have been home runs. Fourth start for Cody Reed here in the big leagues. 2 losses and a 9.00 ERA. Still in search of that first big league win. It's a nice job of getting Rizzo to chase that hard breaking ball and a strikeout.
Well, you're right about that when you describe his slider as a hard breaking ball. That is a 90-mile-an-hour slider. I mean, put where it is right there. That's something that reminds you of, I don't know, Randy Johnson type of a slider right there. A little bit flatter. He has a very flat arm angle, Reed does, and he's got to be careful going forward about trying to make, maybe getting that ball have a little more depth, but it worked on Rizzo that time.
The runner aboard 2 out. Here is Wilson Contreras. And when you talk to people who know about Cody Reed's first 3 starts, they'll talk about what you just mentioned, a little flat on that slider. That's why he's had some problems.
Well, when you go to correct that, it doesn't mean you raise your arm angle up. You simply keep your fingers on top of the baseball. You make sure your wrist doesn't get, parallel with the ground. You've got to get a little bit of an angle on top so your fingers stay on top. It's a very easy adjustment. Right now, though, we've already seen almost as many changeups in this ball game than he threw against the Cubs his entire game the last time he pitched last what, Wednesday or so?
Yeah.
June the 29th.
He went 4 innings in that game, allowed 7 runs, 9 hits. Remember, Rizzo had the inside the park home run in the first. He had a 1-2-3 second, then got touched up for 2 more in the third. 2 home runs against him in the 4th inning, and he didn't go back out there after that.
So I like this game plan a lot better because it's very difficult for a pitcher, even Reed, who's throwing 96 today, to just pump fastball after fastball out there, and then fastball and slider with only a 5 or 6 mile an hour difference in speed. You've got to have that third pitch, and that's why I like the way that he's going about it so far.
That one caught him in the foot. Wilson Contreras on a 1-2 count. Hit by the pitch in the foot. He will join Bryant on the bases.
Boy, that's got to hurt. I mean, that little puppy is barking big time as he hobbles down to first base. Looks like a slider that he just stayed on top of and ran it right inside, and Contreras couldn't get his foot out of the way.
First batter that Reed has hit in the big leagues. P.J. Mainville is the trainer of the Cubs. And he comes out and takes a look at Wilson Contreras. So without the benefit of a hit, the Cubs have an opportunity here in the first. That looked like it got him right in the ankle.
During this brief timeout, Cody Reed took advantage of that to kind of throw a few more warm-up pitches in there to Barnhart. And that tells me that he's still trying to get his feel out there a little bit, try to get a little bit of rhythm. I'm glad he did that rather than stand out there motionless while we're waiting for the player to figure out whether he's going to stay in the game or not.
Here's Addison Russell now with 2 on and 2 out. Average .235 with 8 home runs. And a base hit into left. Bryant will come home. The throw is way wide and late. And Addison Russell, just a .263 hitter with runners in scoring position, comes through in the first, and the Cubs take a 1-0 lead.
Well, he was up there guessing fastball, and that's what he got. Reed just drilled a batter to pitch before, so he's figuring, hey, first pitch out of Reed, if I get a fastball, I'm hacking, and there it is, belt high.
Russell had a home run against the Reds and Reed in that game last Wednesday. He gets the RBI single here. Cubs take a 1-0 lead. Here's Jason Hayward.
Damage control right here. Really bear down to get the left-hander out.
He just walked a batter, hit a batter, given up a hit. Tries to get Hayward here. Hayward was not in the lineup last Wednesday at Great American Ballpark against Reed. He's had a struggling year at .231 in the first year of his multi-year contract with Chicago. 4 home runs, 26 runs batted in.
When the Reds saw the Cubs in Cincinnati last week, and like pretty much all year long, Hayward has been the number 2 hole. And they dropped him down to number 6 today just to take a little pressure off of him. Joe Madden trying to get him going. And they said that move to put him in the number 6 spot in the batting order is not permanent by any means. In fact, it probably won't even last until the All-Star break. But, you just give him a little different situation. Pitchers pitch number 6 hole hitters differently than they pitch guys who bat up at the top of the lineup.
Mentioned at the top that the Cubs lost all 4 games this weekend in New York against the Mets, outscored 32-11 in that series. Hard toward left center field. This could get a pair home. Scoring is Contreras. Here comes Russell and the throw. And the run scores, and it's 3-0 in favor of the Cubs. Pretty good relay from Cozart. Not quite in time to get Russell running with 2 outs.
You know, I don't really understand that pitch, except that maybe that was the only one Reed felt that he could throw for a strike. Hayward just fouled one off the pitch before, and if you get a big league hitter a chance to time your stuff, and you come back-to-back pitches, same location, a good hitter like Hayward is going to make you pay, and that's what he did there with a gapper. This is a learning experience, no doubt about it, for Cody Reed. The problem is it makes for an ugly experience for the rest of the team.
That's now a walk. Jeimer Candelario with a pitcher. Hendricks in the H spot. Bring him up with 2 on, 2 out, and 3 in. So in back-to-back starts against the Cubs, Cody Reed gives up a 3 spot in the first.
You know, the other thing it shows you, Jim, is the really big difference between AAA and AA and the major leagues. It is a quantum leap. Because your best AAA player, when he comes up to the major leagues, is probably hitting in the number 7 or 8 spot, and they're not expecting very much out of him. And the worst AAA players up there who are batting 7th and 8th, a guy like Cody Reed simply blows them away. But there's nobody in this lineup except maybe the opposing pitcher that you're going to be able to do that to. And that's why up here it's all about action on your pitches and control of those pitches too.
Cal Hendricks has a couple of hits this year, 2 out of 29 with a run batted in. Reed trying to get him, make him the final out here of the bottom of the first. Cody was in a good position. He walked Bryant with 1 out, then was able to strike out Rizzo on that hard slider. So a runner aboard with 2 out. Then he hit Contreras, then the RBI single by Russell, and the 2-run double by Hayward. Hendricks represents the 8th man to bat in this inning. Good look at Chris Conroy, our home plate umpire this afternoon. And there's the strikeout. Second of the inning, but damage done by Chicago. They score 3 in the bottom of the first.
From Barboursville, West Virginia. From Barboursville, West Virginia. I'm deployed with the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit aboard the USS Wasp in the Atlantic Ocean. Happy 4th of July. Hi, Rob, and hi, Logan. I love you all very much and miss you. Go Reds and go Thundering Herd.
Major Thornburg would get along with Dan Straley. He's a part of Marshall University. He went to Marshall as a part of the Thundering Herd.
Well, we thank each and every one of them for their service, past and present, and those of you that will serve, and especially those that have given the ultimate sacrifice.
Adam Duvall leads off here in inning number 2. Reds will have to climb the mountain here this afternoon, down early 3-0. 4 starts for Reed now at the big league level, and he's given up 9 first inning runs, 6 of those against the Cubs. Duvall at 254. Leads his team with 22 home runs. He's driven in 58. 22 home runs, second in the National League, behind the man in the other dugout, Chris Bryant. That's a 3-pitch strikeout for Hendricks of Duvall to start the second. Here's Phillips. Brandon in the series in Washington hit out of the 3 spot on both Thursday and Friday, but was moved down to the 6 hole in the final 2 games, Saturday and Sunday, and he's in the 6 spot again here this afternoon. In the 6 hole, he went 2 out of 9 with a run batted in. Hitting .252, 6 homers, 30 RBIs. Of course, if you're just tuning in and you haven't heard the news, the Reds, prior to the game today, relieved pitching coach Mark Riggins of his duties. Named bullpen coach Mac Jenkins the pitching coach, and have promoted Ted Power, longtime Reds pitching coach in the minor leagues at Louisville, as the bullpen coach. And there's a look at Mac. Phillips went around, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Well, Jocketty used the phrase a different voice. It was time for a different voice to talk with the pitchers who have the worst ERA in baseball at 5.51.
You know, if you look at Hendricks and you ask yourself, all right, well, what does Hendricks have that Cody Reed doesn't have? I mean, Reed has a superior fastball. He has a superior slider. He's a bigger, stronger kid. Hendricks is 26 years old. Today he makes his 61st start in the major leagues. And he wishes that he had Cody Reed's fastball and or Cody Reed's slider. But what he does have is a fastball that he throws 70% of the time, and that's 4th most in the National League. And it only averages about 90 miles an hour. He throws a changeup 24% of the time. So he really is just a 2-pitch pitcher. Every once in a while throws a curveball over. But the control of that is what separates him from a AAA pitcher. And, you know, you don't know how much the Cubs may need to lean on Kyle Hendricks going down the stretch here. Because if Jake Arrieta doesn't get it together, and if John Lester is beginning to show some signs of, you know, some weakness, which I don't think one bad outing shows that for Lester. But you really just never know. But this young man right here at 26 years old, acquired just a few years ago from the Texas Rangers. They drafted him out of Dartmouth. And he was in that Ryan Dempster deal right at the trade deadline. So the Cubs picked up a very important piece for a rental player.
Towards center field, and Almora. And quietly in the second, the Reds, I should say, go down in order. Mission of this July 4th holiday, Fox Sports Supports is proud to team up with the Mission Continues, empowering veterans who are adjusting to life at home and finding purpose through community impact. Visit foxsportsupports.com if you'd like to learn more. Happy 4th of July holiday to you. We're here in Chicago at Wrigley Field. Reds and the Cubs, the start of a 3-game series. Cubs have jumped out in front early, 3-0 in this game. And their 9-hitter, Albert Almora Jr., to lead things off. We talked about the Cubs and how the fact that they lost 4 games in a row, they still come in at 51-30, the best record in the National League, winning percentage of .630. 1 win behind the Giants, who have 52 wins, but their winning percentage is .619. Texas also have 52 wins. I tell you, there's a lot of teams that would like to be in the Cubs' shoes right now, including the Reds. Suarez makes the play. Almora is the first out here in the second. But they've been able to play very well here at home to the tune of 25-11, and very good on the road at 26-19. Top of the order now, and Javier Baez. Grounded out to the shortstop, Cozart, his first time. Almora called up on the 7th of June, so he's been here almost a month now. He grounded out to start the inning. Baez up there now. They have Almora up. They have Contreras up. They have Candelario up, all from the minor league system due to injuries here at the big league level. Phillips will move to his left and bobble the ball. Taylor-made ground ball for Brandon Phillips, who commits uncharacteristically his 10th error of the year.
Well, there was a time you go 3 years between ground ball mishaps by Brandon, and this year it's happening a little bit more often. Mechanics are there. The ball just came up on him and unable to stay with it.
62nd error of the year.
The way the Reds are struggling this year, that's kind of a microcosm of all the problems all rolled up into one. I mean, even the things that you think are no-brainers.
High and deep and gone. Kris Bryant, another home run against Cincinnati, his 8th against the Reds this year, and the Cubs now make it 5-0.
Bryant hit 3 of them like this in Cincinnati, and there were so many Cubs fans in the ballpark that they all called her for a curtain call. And I was happy to see that Bryant did not oblige. He stayed in the dugout, showed some respect to the Reds and the Reds fans. But here at Wrigley Field, if he hits 3 in this ball game, he'll be dancing on top of that dugout.
24 on the year now for Bryant. That's tops in the National League. How about that? The most home runs against the Reds prior to the All-Star break. Eddie Matthews had 10 back in '53, and now Bryant has 8 of them. Rizzo struck out his first time. See, Chris Bryant had 26 home runs last year with 99 runs batted in as the Rookie of the Year. And he could surpass that home run total by the All-Star break this year. He has 24 now. Cubs have this 3-game series here against the Reds, and then prior to the break they'll go to Pittsburgh for 3. So 6 games before the break.
Well, you know, for Chris Bryant, he's simply going to get better and better. I mean, as long as he avoids injury, Bryant is going to put up some immense numbers here as a member of the Chicago Cubs. And Cody Reed has got the stuff to get him out, but he can't pump it right down the middle waist high. That was a 93-mile-an-hour fastball that Chris Bryant leveled out of here. I mean, so 93 is hitting speed. So when a scout tells me, hey, the guy throws 93 or 95, I don't even raise my eyebrows anymore because it doesn't mean a darn thing. It's all about command of the strike zone and changing speeds on all your pitches, because these guys can hit them 100 miles an hour. Jake Arrieta showed that last week when he hit a home run against Michael Lorenzen at either 99 or 100 miles an hour. I mean, a pitcher takes you deep when you're throwing 100. So speed is the most overrated thing in baseball now, and all I see are kids out there trying to throw harder and harder.
Contreras high, deep, and gone. Into the bleachers and left it goes. His 5th of the year. The Cubs have put back-to-back 3 spots on the board here in the first 2 innings of this game. Cody Reed has now given up 8 home runs. He's not yet through his 4th big league start.
Check out the speed. 94 miles an hour. Folks, that doesn't mean a thing anymore. You just can't throw it right down the middle to big league hitters. And you know, this is a tough proving ground up here.
Duvall closing on this ball, and he makes the catch to retire Addison Russell. Put an end to the bottom of the 2nd, but 3 more for Chicago. They now lead 6-0.
Yankee legend Mickey Mantle becomes the first switch hitter in history to hit 300 home runs.
Mickey Mantle ended up in his career with 536 home runs, a prolific power hitter as a switch hitter, ends up right now 17th on the all-time home run list. He could be surpassed by David Ortiz, who is not that far behind him, but that home run July 4th, 1960 for the Mick. Barnhart leads it off here in the third. Tuckerman swinging a very good bat. He's hitting 4 straight, 7 of 8, and has his average up to 268. Backhanded by Candelario. He will throw the Reds catcher out. Cody Reed will bat for himself here in the top of the third. Cubs have won each of the last 3 games that Hendricks has started. One of those obviously against the Reds. Pitching better than his overall numbers over that span, a 1.53 ERA. And he has been particularly good here at Wrigley Field this year. Almost 2-run differential in his ERA between home and away. 4 of his 6 wins have come here, and a 1.93 earned run average at Wrigley this season. Hendricks handles his counterpart for out number 2. Baseball's 2 biggest summer events back-to-back. The T-Mobile Home Run Derby coming up on ESPN on July the 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And the very next night, don't miss baseball's biggest stars at the 87th All-Star Game presented by MasterCard. That's on July the 12th. And the coverage is on Fox beginning at 7:30 Eastern Time. We know now that Madison Bumgarner will not participate in the Home Run Derby, so says his manager, Bruce Bochy. Jake Arrieta had talked about it as well. Six in a row now by Hendricks as he deals with Cozart with 2 men out. Hit hard by Cozart into left center. Almora on the run. He's not going to get it on the dive. That's going to be an extra base hit for Cozart. First hit of the game by the Reds. And for Zach Cozart, double number 21. That's the most on this Reds team. The Reds don't have to wait till the 8th inning like they did yesterday to get their first hit. They get a 2-out double here by Cozart.
Cozart having a very consistent season. Although he got off to a tremendous start, he's cooled down, but he still has been a very good fastball hitter. He just gets up there and he hunts that fastball. He gets one up in the zone against Hendricks and finds a gap.
So here's Eugenio Suarez. Suarez yesterday hitless. He went 0 for 3. That snapped a 7-game hitting streak. It equaled his longest of the year. His power numbers are very respectable. 14 homers and 39 runs batted in. You're just past the midway point of the season, so if you double those up, he's very close to 30 home runs and 80 RBIs. He averaged 233. Got under it. Russell out, Bryant in, and who caught the ball? The shortstop. Addison Russell makes the play. Bryant right behind him. Suarez retired. So are the Reds.
Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio is brought to you by USAA Insurance, banking and investments tailored for the military community. And before the game, many times on day games, we'll see kids out to man the positions as the home team takes the field. Today it was members of the military. And not only did they get baseball signed, but hey, this is 2016. You got to get a selfie, right? Jason Hayward providing the selfie. Not many selfies taken on the field as Hayward steps in. And I got to tell you guys, if I had my choice, I'd be in the Queen City on 4th of July, but you got to give it up to the Cubs. That pregame ceremony involving the military, the giant American flag, God Bless America, the singing of the national anthem. Cubs did it up right. Great day to be an American. Packed house here at Wrigley.
Yeah, I agree, Jim. It really was a good-looking flag, and the whole presentation topped off with Wayne Messmer and the national anthem. And he did a very good job. Cubs to be commended. Leadoff man retired. Now here is Jeimer Candelario. Second big league game. He went 1 for 4 yesterday, making his big league debut in New York. Suarez cuts it off and throws him out. Had to be a thrill for Candelario. I mean, he's from New York to make his big league debut there against the Mets at Citi Field. I would imagine he had the passes filled up pretty heavily.
Well, he may have been happy about that, but the Mets handed essentially the Cubs their lunch after the Cubs beat them in that NLCS last year. Or excuse me, after the Mets beat them, they were ready for the Cubs when they came to town this last weekend. A really humiliating 4-game series. They had not been swept since 1985. 4 games by the Mets in New York. So you got to go, and that wasn't a very good Cubs team, as I remember, was it?
85?
No.
Probably not. They had some bad teams back in those days. Hendricks flies to left, and so a perfect third turned in by the lefty Cody Reed.
Presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds, it may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Ladies, if you're looking for the perfect night out with your girlfriends, how about a night of their own presented by St. Elizabeth Healthcare? Enjoy dinner, an open bar, throw a pitch from the mound, snag some fly balls in the outfield. You can meet manager Brian Price and his coaches and much more. Plus, this year, you'll get cool Reds swag, including a Reds watch and wine tumbler. Sign up today at reds.com/events. That's a night of their own coming up on July the 21st at Great American Ballpark. Votto leads it off here in the fourth. One of two Reds base runners today walked in the first. Votto, Bruce, Duvall here in the top of inning 4.
You know, you got to put yourself in position of, you know, Votto and Kozar, Bruce, the veterans on this ball club, because it seems like the same old record. You know, you look up and by the third or fourth inning, you know, you're down by 4 or 5 runs. So how do you really get the muster up to really grind out the at-bats? It's a hard thing to do, but you got to figure a way to do it.
Votto on a 1-2 pitch shoots it on into center, and so he's been on twice. For the first time in the game, the Reds have the leadoff man on. Early enough in this game, it's only the fourth. Get a couple of runs here, a couple of runs there. They're right back in this game.
Well, at the very least, you beat up the starting pitcher enough to have to go to the bullpen, and maybe you set a little bit of momentum in your way for the rest of this series. And then, as you say, you know, anything can happen early in a ball game. I mean, after all, this is Wrigley Field, and if you've been here enough, you'll see that some of the wackiest baseball you'll ever see is played right here.
Wind appears to be blowing in from center. Packed house here at Wrigley. As a player, did you like to come here and play?
Yes. I mean, because it was fun. The people here are fun. You know, when I played, they never drew the way they're drawing today. I mean, this is they're cramming them in here like sardines here today.
They've drawn already 1.4 million here this year. They made the playoffs. Did the Cubs last year as a wild card team. Went to Pittsburgh. Jake Arrieta, brilliant. They won that game. And they beat the Cardinals in the division series, only to run in ultimately to the Mets, who stopped them in the championship series. Rizzo out at second. Safe at first.
You know, you take a look at the swing that Jay Bruce had on that, and this is what a good changeup can do to a good major league hitter. I mean, anytime you get a guy lunging for a ball like that, even if he hits it and you do want him to hit it, he's not going to hit it very hard. So Hendricks has got just enough on his fastball to make the hitter, you know, respect it, but he gets you out with that changeup, and that was nearly a double play.
So I guess the moral of the story that you've been telling so far is that if you have two quality pitches and you're a starter, it's better to have two pitches that there's a big differential in.
Well, what Kyle Hendricks shows you, that if you have, you know, you get graded out on all your different pitches, right? And then you get graded out on things like control, game plan, pitchability, and so on. But maybe the most important of all is not the physical attribute of how hard you throw, but it's how well you control that pitch. And that's what Hendricks is showing right there. I mean, Duvall read that pitch as a fastball coming right down the middle. He takes a big hack and came up nowhere close to it. I mean, this is the consistency that good command can give for you. 2 runs or less in 15 of his last, or 11 of his last 15 starts. For a guy that a lot of people said would never make it to the major leagues. He was an 8th round draft pick out of Dartmouth in 2011. Hendricks was. Then he comes over here from Texas in the Ryan Dempster deal, right at the trade deadline in 2012. The next year in 2013, Kyle Hendricks is the minor league pitcher of the year for the Cubs. And he was kind of on his way. Right now, he sits 6 games over 500 in his major league career. And believe me, there are guys out there that are right at 500 that are on $100 million salaries. So this young man continues to pitch like he has. He's only 26 years old. He can be around a long time and make a lot of money. And in case you were wondering, Dartmouth, yes, Ivy League. What was his major? Economics.
So he'll be able to make the money and understand how to invest it as well. Reaching for that ball, Duvall slaps it out into left field. So Adam has himself a hit. 2 hits in the inning now for the Reds. First time they've had 2 runners on in this game.
You know, the difference between a guy that is a threat at the plate and who is not is somebody who gets a swing like that on a pitcher's pitch and still hits a line drive. I mean, if you can reach for the ball and hit a line drive, boy, what are you going to do with a pitch that comes over the middle?
Well, let's see if Phillips can do something here. 2 on with 1 out. Struck out his first time, Brandon. Just a reminder, as you enjoy a cold one here this afternoon on the 4th of July, we look forward to bringing you our Miller Time moment of the game a little bit later on, brought to you by Miller Lite. Eddie Phillips can provide something big right here that we'll take a look at later.
Might change the scope of this game.
Brandon hit only .257 in the month of June, but more importantly, he did not hit a home run and drove in only 6 runs. In May, he had 5 homers, 16 runs batted in. June, no homers, 6 RBIs. Certainly one of the reasons that Brian Price has elected to take him out of the traditional power run batted in spot at number 3 in the order.
Well, he got in swing mode. Brandon did. There was a game recently that he had that I guess it was against the Padres where he had 4 at bats and he saw a total of 6 pitches. So he was up there trying to crank it out of the ballpark. Right now he's taking 2 pitches on the outer part of the plate and off the plate, just kind of waiting for something that he can unjam, and he got a pitch there and fouled it back. I still contend that Brandon Phillips is at his best when he gets 2 strikes on him and then he begins to use the entire field. He makes a lot of outs in his at-bats early in the count, swinging really hard at pitches that he's trying to pull. But when he wants to, he can be one of the best hitters around just by using the entire field.
1 ball, 2 strike counts. He's hitting .333 this year. How about that? At 1 and 2 right now. Bruce at second, Duvall at first with 1 out. Three-day games here in Chicago in this series. 2:20 again tomorrow, 2:20 again on Wednesday. Candelario getting out at second, safe at first. Hard slide into second base by Duvall into the covering Javier Baez out there, the second baseman. They get the force out.
Well, the ball was hit kind of slow right there. Candelario tried to get it to Baez as quickly as he could, but there is Duvall right on top of him. Duvall has deceptive speed. He's a lot quicker than he looks, and he's a solidly built young man. It's a legal slide as long as you get down on the ground before the base and then be able to hang on to the base. And, of course, no pop-up slide, and that wasn't a dirty slide, just a good hard one.
So here's Billy Hamilton. Candelario is in on the edge of the grass down there at third. He's seeing Hamilton for the first time. Billy fly to center in the second. Bats here with runners at the corners and 2 out in the fourth. Throws out Hamilton at first. Reds get a pair of hits, but leave a pair here in the fourth.
The Reds relieving pitching coach Mark Riggins of his duties. Mac Jenkins, the bullpen coach, is now your pitching coach. I'm Jim Day. I talked to Mac Jenkins before the game and asked him what his #1 priority is. And he said they need to get back as a staff to the #1 goal being fastball command. He said when you sign as in pro ball as a pitcher, fastball command should be your only first thought, and everything else plays off of fastball command. So that will be the #1 priority going forward. Easier said than done. He can't throw the fastballs for these pitchers, but that will be the philosophy. And gentlemen, he didn't mention a word about velocity.
Well, like I said in the pregame show, Jim, I mean, you were right there for our pregame hit up in the booth. You know, all pitching coaches say the same thing. All hitting coaches say the same thing. Some guys use different words, and sometimes the light goes on when you hear a certain phraseology. But, I mean, fastball command, I mean, that's not some revelation that just happened here on July 4th, 2016. They've been saying that ever since they picked up a baseball a long, long time ago. But it's a matter of being able to hear it and then have it translate to your arm. And that's where the key is.
Well, there was a time when Brian was the pitching coach and Mac was his assistant pitching coach under Dusty Baker. And here they are, both elevated to different positions. Brian in his 3rd year as the manager, and Mac becomes his 3rd pitching coach. Jeff Pico was here for 2 years. Mark Riggins, we feel bad for Mark, let go today, and now Mac Jenkins.
Well, one of the things that Mac Jenkins has had responsibility of doing, you may or may not know that the Reds have pulled, you know, their advanced scouts off the trail And they're essentially scouting for the most part using video and using satellite video and images and statistics and so on. And part of Jenkins' responsibility was to put everything together into a cohesive scouting report. He does a very good job doing that. Talk to some people in the front office about that, and they'll tell you that, you know, he's really able to assemble all that information. But now that he's a full-time pitching coach, you know, he's going to be busier than a one-armed paper hanger. I mean, because that's a lot of work to do.
One on, one out for Chris Bryant. Launched one his last time. His 8th home run of the season against Cincinnati. Reed had retired 5 in a row until that base hit by Baez.
Well, this game is so similar to the last one that Cody Reed pitched against the Cubs last Wednesday. He faced off against the same pitcher, Kyle Hendricks. The same thing happened in the first inning. Cubs scored 3 in that game. They scored 3 in this game. They scored 2 in the third, so after 3 innings, it was 5-0. Very similar to what we have right here with a 6-0 score, as the Cubs have scored 3 times in each of the first 2 frames. So really, it allowed Kyle Hendricks to go on cruise control and Cody Reed to go into survivor mode, just to try to get as many innings under his belt as possible. And looks like he's just completely psyched out about facing Chris Bryant.
Yeah, he missed and missed big time in all 4 of those pitches, so he walks his 3rd. Bryant's been on 3 times. And here the Cubs are with 2 on and 1 out, trying to add to their 6-0 lead with Rizzo at the plate. Actually, Reed has been able to handle Rizzo twice today. He's grounded out. He has struck out.
Although it was Rizzo that hit that 3-run home run off of Reed in Cincinnati in the first inning.
Remember, that was the inside the park home run that on a ball should have been, could have been caught.
Want to put Billy Hamilton on the DL or on the concussion.
Well, they had to go through the concussion protocol,
procedure,
right?
yeah.
He hits Rizzo.
Keeps your walks down.
Second battery's hit today. Now here he is in a heap of trouble again. Bases loaded, 1 out.
That'd be a heck of a pitch if it didn't load the bases.
Rib shot right there. So here's Contreras with the bases loaded, 1 out. He's been hit by a pitch. He's homered in this game. Now Josh Smith, who has done a very nice job out of the Reds bullpen, starts to loosen down the right field line. To third, they'll come home. Suarez gets the force out on the throw to Tucker Barnhart. So 2 out. 5-2 on the put out at the plate. The bases will be loaded, but with 2 men out for Addison Russell.
Kind of an emotional victory right here for Cody Reed if he can wiggle out of this jam without giving any runs up. Had a 1-2-3 inning last inning. Addison Russell jumped on the first pitch he saw in the first inning to drive in the first run with a solid base hit. So he'll be up there hunting a fastball early right here.
And he hit the ball hard as last time when he lined out to left field. Suarez right off his glove. That's going to score 2 runs. Throwing to third late, throw to second late. Second error of the game by the Reds, and I mean that is a concentration play that Suarez just did not make. Comes Mac Jenkins, and his first official visit to the mound as the Reds pitching coach.
You know, we've been coming to here at Wrigley Field for years and years and years, and for the most part, you know, the Reds have beaten up on the Cubs, especially in the good years for the Reds. But this year it seems like the Reds are playing like the Cubs of old.
And they won, what, 3 years in a row or 2 years in a row where they lost 100, lost 90 a third year, and they were trying to, quote, rebuild. They've been able to do it. Made the playoffs last year and leading the division all year this year. So 2 runs in, both unearned. 8-0 now Chicago. Jason Heyward with runners at second and third and 2 out. You talked about an emotional victory for Reed if he could have gotten through the inning, and really from his standpoint he did.
You can't think like that though. You think as a team rather than you, and you know, earned runs versus unearned runs. It's a tough thing to do because bottom line, earned runs make a difference, but you just keep battling. The only thing you can do.
On Fox Sports Ohio is brought to you by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. And by Cincinnati Children's, ranking 3rd in the country on U.S. News Best Children's Hospitals. We mentioned Mac Jenkins went to the mound and talked with Cody Reed in the bottom of the 4th, and now that discussion continues here in the Reds dugout at the end of the inning. A different role for Mac Jenkins as well. True, he's been a pitching coach in the minor leagues. He's been a pitching coordinator for the organization. He's been the assistant pitching coach, but he's filling shoes now that he's never been in before.
Yeah, and the shoes that you fill as a pitching coach this year for the Reds is as much about teaching. It's almost like you're managing it, you're coaching in the minor leagues, but you're doing it at the big league level, meaning you've got a number of young players up here that are just going through the big leagues for the very first time. And you're still teaching them about, the basics of pitching. I mean, Cody Reed he's been a long, long time since he's had the kind of adversity that he has seen so far here in the major leagues. I mean, when's the last time he's gone out there 4 games in a row and just had handed his lunch to him?
Probably never.
Never. So, I mean, that's something that you've got to get over emotionally, and you got to figure out why your delivery is not good enough to be able to repeat and throw quality strikes. So for Mac Jenkins, or prior to that, Mark Riggins, it's about teaching as much as it is about coaching.
Baez throws out Barnhart. That's the way the 5th inning of this game begins. Reed has thrown 78 pitchers through 4 innings, and Josh Smith continues to throw in the bullpen, leading you to believe, and the way Mac Jenkins was talking to Reed down there, that he's probably finished.
Probably so.
And indeed he will be. And here's Chris Holt to bat for Reed. So he goes 4 innings, allows 7 runs, 9 hits against the Cubs last Wednesday. And he goes 4 innings today. Allows 8 runs and 5 hits. Holt at 224. He's driven in 7. In the air toward left center. Bryant and Almora, and the two collide again. That's the second time in this game that they've had a miscommunication out there. Looks like Bryant caught the ball. He did. He's on the ground. Almora will help him to his feet. Certainly it's very loud out there, and I guess you have to communicate even better than they think they're doing.
Well, when that fly ball went up, it wasn't like there was a roar of the crowd. So somebody's got to be yelling hard, and you see Almora, the center fielder, calling for it with his hand, but the left fielder's not taking his eye off the ball. He goes, I got it, I got it. Maybe he yells at it, and at that time, Bryant had already worked his way into position to catch it. Out. Upside the head.
So Cozart bats with 2 out.
Meanwhile, Kyle Hendricks is just kind of weaving his way right through this Reds lineup. The only threat the Reds had last inning, where they had a couple of runners on base.
Zach doubled with 2 out back in the 3rd. One of 3 Reds hits today. Hit hard and right at Rizzo. Good wood by Cozart, unfortunately in the wrong spot. Swing in the Summer continues tomorrow right here at Wrigley Field for another matinee game against the Chicago Cubs. Jeff McCarl, Brian Giesenslaw will get things started with Reds Live. That'll be at 1:30. Swing in the Summer on Fox Sports Ohio, presented by Miller Lite. Remember, Wednesday now, an all-new Reds Weekly will have an all-star feel to it. Who made it to the Midsummer Classic for the Reds? Plus, it's the most iconic moment in all-star game history, and it changed two players' lives forever. Make sure to tune in for all that and more with Jeff Piecoro and Doug Flynn Wednesday at 6 p.m. right here on your home of the Reds, Fox Sports Ohio. Everybody in a 4th of July holiday mood out here at the ballpark today. They have the bunting here on the facing of the stadium. A lot going on in downtown Chicago. I mean, there are people everywhere. A lot of energy to the downtown Chicago area when we arrived here last night.
I mean, it was so crowded it was hard to walk on the sidewalks.
You're exactly right.
I mean,
right.
You thought that you were in New York City.
Folks that live here want to get out of the city for the holiday. Folks from outside the area, they want to come into Chicago and celebrate. New pitcher for the Reds is Josh Smith. He has been, as he does walk the leadoff man here in the bottom of the 5th, despite that, a breath of fresh air out of that bullpen.
I don't think he had any inclination at all as to how much he would be used. The time that he was brought up from the minor leagues, his first appearance was May the 24th. And it seems like every other day he's in a ball game, and not just to pitch an inning, but I mean sometimes to go as many as 3 innings as he has gone, sometimes to get out of an inning. And Smith is an interesting case. Here's a guy that, you know, what they call an organizational pitcher. They don't really expect, you know, a high ceiling out of Josh Smith, but I think that they're very happy with what they've gotten out of a guy that has good command of his fastball. He can throw it down there, which is low and away for the most part, and he's got a nice slider.
Well, he last pitched on Saturday in that 10-inning game. He did a nice job to get out of the bottom of the 8th. In a 1-2-3 ninth inning, an inning and a third of perfect baseball. Nationals had tied the game in the bottom of the 8th against Blake Wood. Reds then went on to score 5 times in the 10th and give Josh Smith his first major league win in that game. He came up as a starter last year, and it was not pretty, but he's done much better as a reliever this year. His ERA would be even better at 3.98 had it not been for one bad outing.
You know, it's interesting. I was sitting one day in the clubhouse in Cincinnati with Josh and A.J. Morris, and Morris had just had a rough outing, and it was Josh Smith that came over to him and said, now here's a guy that Smith last year only pitched in about 7 games, right? But as a veteran compared to Morris, he said, don't worry, it gets easier. It's so hard mentally to get over the fact that you're in the major leagues, that you make a good pitch like that and they get a base hit out of it. That rarely happens down in the minor leagues, but it happens a lot more up here, and you just have to be mentally prepared for it.
Kyle Hendricks is not exactly the world's best hitting pitcher, but he makes a heck of a swing on that pitch and drops in a base hit. I think he came up with a batting average of less than 100.
Yeah, he was 2 for 29 coming into this game. He had been 0 for 2, but now he gets a hit, so that is hit number 6 for Chicago. The first 2 have reached against Josh Smith. We're talking about that bad outing he had at Washington on the 30th, the first game of the series there, when he gave up 5 runs in 1 2/3. His ERA ballooned from 2.08 all the way up to 4.26. Really the only bad outing he has had. He's 28 years old, from Margate, Florida. Pitched collegiately at Lipscomb University down in Nashville. They're a member of the Atlantic Sun Conference. Reds took him in the 21st round in 2010. Almora chases, doesn't get it. He's a strikeout victim. A 3-pitch strikeout of Almora by Smith. Top of the order now, and Javier Baez. Baez, one of the few Cubs that actually had a good series in New York. He went 6 for 16 with a home run. Talk about Joe Madden changing his lineup around, not only position-wise, but in the batting order. I mean, this is the first game this year that Baez has led off. Fowler, until he went on the DL, was their leadoff man. Ben Zobrist, the free agent who they brought over here this offseason, has been in the #1 spot since Fowler's been on the DL. Zobrist getting the day off today. And Baez, for the first time, is in the #1 spot.
Interesting pitch right there. You know, there's always a battle within the battle, and it has to do with pitcher and hitter. And after Baez just really took a huge swing on a low outside slider, that next pitch up and in on an 0-2 count. Probably go back down away again, see if he'll chase.
That's what they do. They get the ground ball to Cozart. There's one, and that's all they get. Force out at second, retires the pitcher Hendricks. Runners at the corners with 2 out. And here's Chris Bryant again. Chris Bryant going to be lifted for a pinch hitter. Cubs already up 8-0, and they will turn to their bench. And Matt Caesar will pinch hit for Chris Bryant. Caesar hitting .276, and he turns on this pitch toward left field. Duvall on the warning track runs it down. Caesar is out to retire the side.
Nolan Ryan records his 3,000th strikeout when he fans the Reds' Cesar Geronimo.
July 4th, 1980. Some 36 years ago, number 3,000 in the strikeout department for the all-time strikeout king, Nolan Ryan. He would get a few more after that. How about 2,714 more? And he ended his career 5,714 strikeouts, almost 900 more than the number 2 man, Randy Johnson.
Walked off the mound after his last pitch at age 46 years old when he heard something in his elbow pop. Was not the way that he wanted his career to end, but the last pitch that Nolan Ryan threw before he blew out his elbow at age 46 was recorded at 98 miles per hour.
Now you tell me, did he have Tommy John surgery?
You know, I don't know if he did or not, to be honest with you.
At a mere 46.
I mean, yeah, he put a few miles on that arm before it blew out. Scherzer takes over and left because Chris Bryant evidently was injured in that collision that we showed you with the center fielder Almora.
He caught the ball. He went down. He was slow to get up. With an 8-0 lead, I'm sure Joe Madden thinking there's no sense risking anything. So Caesar takes over and left after pinch hitting. Suarez leading it off here in the 6th. Popped up twice. In case you missed it earlier, here's the collision we're talking about. The glove to the head of Almora to Bryant. Both go down. Bryant leaves the game for a pinch hitter.
It's a way to get a ticket back to Peoria if you're Almora, to injure Chris Bryant. I use Peoria as a former
metaphor, yeah.
Former spot where the Cubs used to have a team down there, did they not?
No, they did. A long time they were the Cubs, back when Pete Vanaken owned that team. Now that family still owns it, but Pete has since passed away.
That was always a great place for a minor league named town. If you're not betting, if it don't get any better, we're sending you to Peoria. Which is your home? Is that your hometown?
It is my hometown, yeah.
Well, I apologize for calling it a minor league town.
Well, you know, they used to say back in the vaudeville days, will it play in Peoria? That was the testing ground before it went to Broadway.
Excellent.
Will it play in Peoria?
Well, Jim Kelch played in Peoria, and here he is playing in large leagues.
But not on Broadway.
Thank goodness for that. Hey, do you have any, what is your favorite 4th of July tradition? Do you have one that sticks out over another?
You know, I really don't. My adult life, I've been working in baseball, so I've been in a ballpark virtually every 4th of July. Hard hit and a base hit for Votto means Joey's been on 3 times today. But I'll turn it over to you. How about you? Do you?
Well, you know, there's a lot of them. You know, we all like fireworks and parades and, you know, the singing of the national anthem, the God Bless America before the game today. It's certainly a baseball tradition ingrained with 4th of July. But how about the hot dog eating contest, the Nathan's hot dog eating contest? You ever follow that?
I have, actually.
Well, I got to tell you, it was today. And Joey Jaws Chestnut got his crown back.
He did.
Got the mustard colored belt back as he downed in 10 minutes 70 buns and hot dogs. And in the process of doing that, he consumed 19,600 calories, 1,260 grams of fat, 54,600 milligrams of sodium, and 700 grams of protein. So congratulations to Joey Chestnut.
All that good for the system.
Well, if you don't believe that, just ask Jeff Brantley, the resident expert.
He trades the hot dogs in, though, for the ribs.
And wings.
And wings. Top that off with a little ice cream. And wash it all down with a Coca-Cola.
Well, you know what? Then you have a nice 4th of July.
Oh, you're right, though. Nothing like the family gathering on 4th of July. The grill going, the volleyball going, maybe the softball, wiffle ball. A lot of fun. Into the shift. They get one. And Bruce legs it out at first base. Well, they did not get the... Well, let's see what they're going to do here. Votto's going to go to third. Did they call the out at second or did they not? There's no neighborhood play, remember, out at second base any longer. Joe Madden is pointing out there saying, did you make an out call?
Called him
and
safe.
He said no. Sean Barber said that he was off the bag. Take a look at it again here.
Well, they're looking at it in the Cubs clubhouse right there. The question is, was his foot on the bag when he had the ball?
The replay that we just saw did not appear as if Addison Russell got the bag. Can't tell from that angle. The angle we just saw prior to that was pretty good, and so the Cubs will challenge this. Right there, it does not look like he touches the base, does it?
Unless he dragged his foot across, and I really can't tell, but it's a smart play by Votto. This may be the definitive look right here, and I still can't tell. But Votto comes in, he realizes there's no out call made. So when the play goes to first base and everybody kind of relaxes, Votto heads up, goes into third.
Well, he had the benefit of being right there, of course, and Sean Barber, the second base umpire, signaled safe. He saw that, and when nobody was at third, as Chris says, he hustled over there. So now the umpires talk to the folks in New York about it.
You know, the interesting thing is you see the replays at second base. Watch how Votto slides well before the bag. I mean, he gets down to make sure that he doesn't get hit with the relay throw. Watch Votto slide before the bag here. This is really out of self-protection. He's way in front of the second base bag right. He's got another 6 to 8 feet to go. Although you really can't tell from that angle. He's just trying to get out of the way of that relay throw.
So he had to get up, go on to the bag, and touch it. And then when he saw nobody at third, hustled over there. Now, a year ago, that would have been an out because a year ago, the neighborhood play was in effect. But this year, when they changed the rule in terms of sliding at second, in terms of taking runners out at second base, known really as the Chase Utley rule, the neighborhood play went by the wayside. You have to touch the bag. And in that instance, the umpire out there, Sean Barber, said he did not. And that is confirmed. The umpire's call confirmed. Safe at second base. So Bruce reaches on a fielder's choice. Bruce will get a hit on this.
You know, what happens most of the time is the shortstop just kind of sweeps his foot across the bag. And evidently,
it was not
Candelario,
Russell.
who's the third baseman, didn't do that, and that's going to actually chase Kyle Hendricks from this ballgame.
They'll give Bruce a fielder's choice. An error is charged to the third baseman, Candelario, for not getting the out at second. Reds have them at the corners, and they'll face a new pitcher, Carl Edwards Jr., into the game. This is our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Team up with the DAV, Disabled American Veterans and Hankook Tire, to offer $5 tickets to active duty, reserve, veteran, and retired service members and families throughout the season. For tickets and more information, you can visit reds.com/military. New pitcher on for the Cubs, the right-hander Carl Edwards Jr., nicknamed the String Bean Slinger.
And he throws it hard, no question about it. The right-hander comes in here to pick up for Kyle Hendricks, who went 6 1/3 last time out Wednesday against the Reds. He went 6 2/3. Has not given up a run in this game yet, but his runners are on base at third and first.
Duvall had a hit against Hendricks his last time, 1 for 2. He battles against Carl Edwards Jr. now. Edwards is 24 out of Newberry, South Carolina. Called up from Iowa on June the 20th when Dexter Fowler was placed on the disabled list. Second time he'd been up this season with the big league club. Reds saw him twice in that series back in Cincinnati. 3 innings total, no runs, no hits against the Reds. He worked once in New York, 1 1/3, so since his recall, no runs. Check that, 1 run, 2 hits in 7 innings worth of work. Done a pretty good job for them. So again, on that ball hit by Bruce, he reaches on a fielder's choice. There's an E5 charge to Candelario, who was in the shift against Bruce, was covering second base on that and missed the bag, did not touch it, allowing Votto to get to second and then ultimately move up over to third. And it chased Hendricks out of the game. 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, a walk, 2 strikeouts. The runners on are his. Duvall, of course, never having an opportunity like he has had this year with the Reds, coming up through the Giants organization. Came over in that Mike Leake deal the end of last year. Played in 27 games for the Reds, hit .219. And was going to be given a shot to win the job out in left field. Early on, it was he and Scott Schebler who were platooning out there.
And of course, if you're the right-handed part of any platoon, and if it's a true platoon, you're not going to get very many at-bats at all because there's so few lefties in the league to face.
Hayward under this ball. Votto will tag. There's the catch. Here's the tag. They'll throw on into second, conceding the run. Votto scores. Duvall RBI number 59. And the Reds are on the board in the 6th. It's now 8-1.
Well, that little heads-up bit of base running by Joey Votto not only put a Reds run on the board, but it gave Adam Duvall another RBI. It saved him an offer in as much as he didn't take a 0 for that at bat. There's no official at bat when you have sacrifice fly. So a little hustle by your teammate can, help your own individual numbers as well.
2 out with Bruce aboard. The batter is Phillips. Brandon today 0 for 2. So both starters now out of the game. Reed went 4 for the Reds. Hendricks 5 1/3 for the Cubs. And they are the pitchers of record. Ball a strike to Brandon. Hamilton is on deck. Action now down in the Reds bullpen. Blake Wood has gotten up, started the throw. Josh Smith has gone 1 inning. Figures to go back out there. Towards center field. This ball will be caught by Baez to retire the side. On this Independence Day, USAA honors those who have served and all of our service members at home and abroad.
Sergeant Hicks. I'm currently stationed in Camp Air John, Kuwait. I just want to say happy 4th of July to my family. I love and miss you guys, and let's go Reds.
All right, thank you, Sergeant Hicks. We appreciate it. All those, as Chris mentioned earlier, serving in the military, allowing us to feel safe back here in the U.S., living the kind of lives that we do because of the hard work that they do. Josh Smith back to the mound, bottom of the 6th inning. With a 0 on the board in the bottom of the 5th, and now he gets Rizzo, who was struck out, grounded out, and been hit by a pitch. He's in the hole, 2 strikes. This guy is a magnet for the baseball. I mean, he led all the big leagues last year, Rizzo, when he was hit 30 times by pitched balls last year. Hitting the 4th for the 12th time this year. He's 3rd in the National League this year in that department. How much of it you think is the way he stands there at the plate?
I think a lot of it, and the fact that also the pitchers like to pitch him inside because he likes to get his arms extended. That's where his power is. So you go in there on him, and he doesn't budge. See that ball out over the plate a little bit. You let him get the bat head on it.
He's on base for the 2nd time. He has a base hit. 7 hits now for the Cubs. They get the leadoff man on for the 2nd inning in a row against Smith. He hit that right through the shift. Contreras. 8-1 Chicago, bottom of the 6th inning. Cubs trying to win their 5th straight and their 13th in their last 14 games against the Reds. Talking earlier about the fact that it's not been that long ago that the Reds dominated the series against Chicago back when they were going through their rebuilding phase. Going back all the way to 2010. Reds won 12 out of 16 that year. Following year, 11 out of 18. 2012, 12 out of 16. 2013, 14 of 19. And 5 consecutive years in which the Reds won the season series until last year when the Cubs won 13 of 19. This year they've won 9 of 10 going into today. Second year for Joe Maddon. He gets a win today and he'll be gunning for his 150th victory as a Cubs manager here tomorrow. Contreras has scored twice today. He homered. His 5th big league home run. Been up here a couple of weeks now. He also homered yesterday in New York in their 14-3 loss to the Mets. Phillips out, Bruce in, Bruce coming on, and he makes the catch with a slide at the end, but retires Contreras for the first out.
Nice play by Jay Bruce. He had to come a long way for that. The ball just coming off the end of the bat by Contreras. He didn't put much on it. Bruce just in hot pursuit.
So here's Addison Russell. This was a big acquisition by Chicago when they got the former #1 pick from the Oakland Athletics back in 2012. He came over here early July of 2014. They traded away Jason Hamill, Jeff Samardzija, ultimately got Hamill back as a free agent. He has ultimately taken over the shortstop job. Did it last year, second half, with Starlin Castro. Rips one into the corner here, and it's a basket shot. 2-run homer, Addison Russell, number 9. Adds to the Cubs lead and makes it a 10-1 game. 3rd homer of the afternoon by the Cubs.
No, not an easy game to pitch in if you're Josh Smith, and he comes in here and just kind of makes a mistake with a breaking ball, leaves it on the inner third. Boy, all Addison Russell's got to do is drop the head, and that he does.
Bases empty, 1 out. For Jason Heyward. Update from the Cubs clubhouse regarding Chris Bryant, who left the game for a pinch hitter. That was in the bottom of the 5th inning after that collision out and left in the top of the 5th. Lower left leg contusion for Chris Bryant.
We thought he got him upside the head, maybe in the jaw or the ear area, but it was actually the left leg that bothers him. Well, after a very tough weekend in New York, the Cubs were probably happy to see the Reds. I mean, they have dominated the Reds so far this year, and they've been a very good ball club at home. By coming into this game, they're 25-11 at home, but winless in the month of July. How are they on Mondays? Pretty good. They've won 7, dropped 3.
That's ball 4. Well, we came in singing the praises of Josh Smith, but today has not been a sharp day for him. Struggled through the 5th, among a 0, but 3 of the 4 batters have reached against him here in the bottom of the 6th. Be a part of Super Saturdays this season at Great American Ballpark. After the All-Star break, Saturday, July the 16th, thanks to PNC Bank, the first 25,000 fans will receive a Zach Cozart bobblehead. Catch all the action when your Reds take on the Milwaukee Brewers. You can do that for only $12. If you'd like tickets, call 513-381-REDS, or you can visit Reds.com. Zach Cozart bobblehead coming up on Saturday, July the 16th. Mac Jenkins, second time out there here this afternoon. Newly appointed pitching coach of the Reds.
First time I've ever seen him run. You had to get off the field in less than 30 seconds, right?
Yeah, you have 30 seconds from when you head on out there. Talked about Mac being an organizational guy this year, 2016. 30th season for Mac Jenkins in the Reds organization as either a player, coach / instructor. 5th year he's been on the big league staff. He was the club's minor league pitching coordinator from 2006 to 2011, then came up to the big league team. Former pitching coach at AAA Louisville. He's been around a long time. His playing career short-lived back in the late 80s. Never did get above A ball. Tell you what, though, he has a daughter, Corinne, who is just a terrific softball pitcher. Graduated this year down at Florida International. I know he left to go down there for the graduation, but she had a terrific softball career. His son is a pitcher at Cincinnati Christian University in Cincinnati. Very athletic family. Candelario turns around, bats from the left side, and he is down on strikes. Second strikeout for Smith, second out of the inning. Now Travis Wood is going to pinch hit for Carl Edwards Jr. Brian Price out of the dugout. Make a pitching change. Blake Wood has been throwing in the bullpen. They're going to send up, the Cubs are, a pitcher, Travis Wood, to pinch hit, and that sparks a change by Brian Price. Ivan DeHazing Jr. will take over second base for Brandon Phillips. Pitching change here at Wrigley Field on this 4th of July. More in a moment.
Greater coverage of baseball brought to you by T-Mobile. Take you down to the minor league level. Double-A, Pensacola, Brandon Dixon, one of those players in the Todd Frazier offseason deal, leads the Blue Wahoos, 11 home runs and 40 runs driven in. High A, Daytona, Aristides Aquino, after a slow start, his average up to 287. Team leading 10 home runs and 39 runs driven in. Currently riding a 17-game hitting streak in the Dayton Dragons. Shed Long, last 22 games, getting it done. You guys mentioned Nick Senzel, who's alongside Shed Long there, and updating you on the Reds minor leaguers.
Thank you, Jim Day. Meanwhile, new pitcher on, Blake Wood, to face a pinch hitter, Travis Wood.
Maybe that's why Brian Price wanted to make the change when he did, because he wanted to see this Wood versus Wood matchup. I can't think of any other reason. Unless Josh Smith hit his pitch count limit at 43.
With Wood versus Wood, no relation. Broken bat towards center. Billy on. Billy dives and can't get it. So a pinch hit single for the pitcher, Travis Wood. Always been known as a pretty good hitter, Travis Wood. That's the hit right here. Two on now with 2 out. 2 runs in this inning. Cubs up by a score of 10-1. To the right side, DeJesus took over for Phillips. He throws him out to retire the side. 6 complete here on the 4th of July in Chicago. Look at a Honda game summary. Cubs early. Here's a ball hit in the first inning by Jason Hayward, a 2-run double. That got the Cubs out in front early in this contest. Made it 3-0 at the time. Here's Chris Bryant in the second inning. For Bryant, a 2-run shot. Home run number 8 for him against Reds pitching this year. And how about in the 6th inning? Addison Russell, 2-run bomb. This against Josh Smith, into the left field corner, into the basket it went. 3 home runs by the Cubs all told this afternoon, and they lead it 10-1 after 6. Our Honda game summary. The pitcher on for Chicago, He pinch hit, had a hit. Travis Wood, he takes over for Carl Edwards Jr. Former Red Travis Wood has gone to the bullpen with this Chicago team and done very good work. This year, 2.14 ERA. His second year really working out of the bullpen. Last year, 54 games, but 9 starts.
Jim, did you happen to see any of the game that was played last night between the Marlins and the Braves down at Fort Bragg?
Yeah, I did. I know it was an amazing facility that they had built down there at an old golf course site.
Especially given the fact that they only had 4 months to build it.
Yeah.
I mean, they did it in no time at all.
Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association combined to honor our country's military and take the game down to the Fort Bragg military base, the largest base in the world for U.S. soldiers.
Yeah, where the game was played. Of course, the game counted. It wasn't an exhibition game. Counted in the standings, there were 12,500 military personnel and their families in attendance last night. They hauled in 350,000 tons of red clay to make the field, the infield, a terrific flyover prior to the game. Just really a way for Major League Baseball to say thank you to the U.S. military.
They're turning that field over after the game last night to Fort Bragg folks. Marlins won the game 5-2. By all accounts, the field was immaculate and played very well. So they took an old piece of real estate that wasn't being used, that was a dilapidated old golf course area there, and turned it into a pristine baseball field for that game last night. A military appreciation thank you game, if you will, from Major League Baseball to our nation's military. Two out now. Ivan DeJesus Jr., part of the double switch, now in the 9 spot on the batting order. Hitting .202 with a homer and 2 runs batted in. And a tough go for him as of late. DeJesus 1 for his last 18 as he stands in there. Hits it hard and by the diving second baseman Baez and on into center field. So the Reds get their 5th hit, a 2-out 7th inning single by DeJesus.
Hit it very hard, DeJesus did, right back through the box. And he gets his first hit since he got one against the St. Louis Cardinals in the early part of June.
Been a while, yeah.
No, excuse me, that was against Atlanta. No, he had one against the Cubs. I'm looking at the wrong column. Started off slow, got hot. You know, it's not an easy task when you come off the bench and you don't get very much regular playing time.
Cozart launches one left field. Did he get enough of this ball to the wall? And it's a basket shot. Almost in the exact same spot in which Addison Russell homered in the bottom of the 6th. Cozart comes through with one here in the top of the 7th. His 12th of the year. And the Reds now down 10-3. Cozart RBIs 34 and 35. He has a double and a home run here today.
Well, against Travis Wood, Cozart's hunting a fastball. He gets one. Boy, he gets another one up in the zone right here. That's where he hit that double in the 3rd inning. A ball right across the letters and was able to get this one to the basket.
So the Reds down 8-0 at one time, now trailing 10-3. 12th home run of the year by Zach Cozart.
You know, the basket here at Wrigley Field really, it solves a lot of problems. It solves a potential delay of game when, you know, was it a home run or not a home run? Now, you don't see players able to make over-the-fence catches because it's too high to do that. But, I mean, if the ball's in the basket, it's a homer. If it's not in the basket, it's a live baseball.
Yeah, fans there in the front row can reach out, but they're in home run area, so it doesn't matter. They have a little yellow line there at the edge of that fencing. That's a good look at it right there. Those fans can reach out, but they can't get over that fence.
I've seen them fall into that basket.
Have you?
Yeah. It's pretty well constructed. It held a big boy there one time. He rolled over that brick wall and into that.
Odds are if that happened, he probably didn't remember it anyway.
You're a pretty good chance of that. He had a difficult time getting out of it. It was actually more of a trap than a basket.
Friends had to yank him out of there, haul him over that wall again.
Before the ushers came and got him.
Suarez today 0 for 3. Cubs have used their starter Kyle Hendricks 5 1/3, 1 unearned run, 4 hits allowed. Trying to defeat the Cubs, pardon me, the Reds for the second time this year. Carl Edwards 2/3 of an inning. Travis Wood now here in the 7th. He cracks one out to center. Back goes Almora near the wall. And how about back-to-back shots for the Redlegs here in the 7th inning? Little fireworks of their own accord on the 4th of July. 2-run homer by Cozart and a solo shot by Suarez. His 15th, and it's a 10-4 game. Third time this year that the Reds have gone back-to-back. Do it here in the 7th in Chicago.
Well, there's a little unrest out there in left center field right now, right where that ball landed. They want, of course, the tradition here is if an opposing team member hits a home run, you're supposed to throw it back. And they finally fired it back in and gets a little round of applause from the bleacher creatures.
Now, if I'm sitting out there, I think I'm going to bring an old baseball with me. Yeah, along the lines of what I'm going to say. I think I'd bring an old ball with me, and if I happen to get a foul ball or a home run ball or something of that nature, a real game ball, I'm going to throw the old one out and keep the good one.
Well, he's kind of confused anyway because, you know, he's sitting in the bleachers at Wrigley Field, but maybe he thinks he's up at Target Field in Minnesota.
Possible.
I mean, he might be the only guy up there with Twins gear on.
Votto is out on strikes. The 7th inning comes to an end, but a little life for the Reds. They get 3, including that ball hit by Suarez.
Righetti trying to get Bog, and he gets it! A no-hitter! A no-hitter for Dave Righetti!
Dave Righetti no-hitter, 1983 against the Boston Red Sox at Yankee Stadium. That was a very good year for Dave Righetti. In fact, he won more games that year, 14, than he did in any other year in his career, a career that spanned from 1979 to 1995. Long-time pitching coach of the Giants. Dave Righetti, 1983, no-hitter.
Former roommate of mine and
Was he?
teammate for a couple of years, yeah. In fact, I was pitching in Double-A for the West Haven Yankees when the Yankees made a trade with the Texas Rangers, and they got this hard-throwing left-hander, and I saw Righetti warm up one time in the bullpen. I realized I had just been moved down a peg on the depth chart.
You liked what you saw.
As it turned out, it was several pegs.
At least even back then, you were an evaluator of talent.
Yeah.
And what you saw, you knew what was good and bad.
Well, you have to be honest. Doesn't mean you give up, but you take what you do the best and do what you can. Well, he threw hard and had a good slider, really worked at it. It was not easy for him to harness his control. In fact, you can kind of liken him a little bit to Cody Reed. He was very young when he came over to the Yankees in the minor leagues. He had a very good arm. He kind of breezed through, you know, a couple of the Double-A and a little bit of Triple-A, but boy, he really got his lumps, and he had to figure out what pitching was all about rather than what throwing was all about. And he eventually became a very fine major league pitcher and a reliever where he had a lot of saves.
Yeah, I was going to say, he threw that no-hitter in 1983, made 31 starts that year, and made a grand total of only 13 more starts in his career. He was a bullpen guy. He was a closer for years. In fact, he saved 252 games. He won 82 in his career. Baez down on strikes, and a good start for Blake Wood here in the bottom of the 7th. Matt Caesar, who took over for Chris Bryant out in left field. He pinch hit for him in the 5th inning, and again Bryant left with a lower left leg contusion when he and the center fielder Almora came together on the fly ball hit by Tyler Holt in the top of the 5th. Bryant caught it. The two of them went down. Bryant left the game after the inning ended. Caesar bats for the 2nd time. He lined to left his first time. Just foul past first base. Blake Wood goes full. We last saw Wood when he pitched in the game on Saturday night. Unfortunately, things did not go well for him when he took over for Dan Straley, who was just so on top of his game Saturday night in the game in D.C. Reds led 4-1 after 7.5. Straley went back out there in the 8th inning, had some trouble, did not get an out. Gave up a walk and a home run ball. He left the game, and then Wood came on. Unfortunately, he had a tough time of it. Walked 3, gave up a hit in 2/3 of an inning. Nationals scored 3 in the bottom of the 8th to tie the game. Fortunately for the Reds, they scored 5 in the 10th and won that one 9-4. Cubs early in this game, 3 in the bottom of the 1st inning. 2-run double by Jason Hayward, the big blow there. 3 in the bottom of the 2nd. 2-run homer by Chris Bryant. Solo shot by Wilson Contreras. 2 more in the 4th inning. On an error by Reds third baseman Eugenio Suarez with 2 out. Allowed 2 runs to score, and then they get 2 more in the 6th. And a 2-run homer by Addison Russell. See all the Reds action aboard the Cincinnati Bell Riverboat deck at Great American Ballpark. Located above the center field wall, we'll take in a panoramic view of the Ohio River and the entire ballpark. If you'd like to book a group or a party, call the Reds Group Sales Department. They're number 513-765-7600 or visit reds.com/groups. Rizzo with a runner aboard and 1 out. Now we're just over the midway point of the season. Game on Friday in Washington marked the 81st game of the year, the mathematical midway point of the year. Reds went 29-52 in the first half. Although from a baseball perspective, they consider the first half the All-Star break, which comes up at the end of the game this coming Sunday down in Miami. So it's over a mathematical half. When you look at numbers, whether you use baseball reference or whatever you might look at to look up statistics on your team, and you see splits, first half, second half, they consider the first half to the All-Star break, not the mathematical first half. Young man happy about that. Don't throw it back now. Hold on to that thing. Let's get a picture. Put your Cub hat on. There you go. Look at Dad. Did they get it? I think they did. Strike. Rizzo thought he'd walked. They appealed to third, and Ron Culpa said he went around, and Rizzo says, come on. There's no way. Instead, back to the dugout he goes. Joe Madden, well, he didn't like the call either.
Well, we'll probably get a second look at it here, and you can be the judge for yourself at home. Normally, when they have this and they say you went, you went. I'm not so sure about that one.
Rizzo rung up for the second time today, and now it's Wilson Contreras with a runner aboard and 2 out. First full inning of work for Blake Wood. Josh Smith an inning and 2/3. Wood gets through this, he'll have an inning and a third in. There's no further action right now in the Reds bullpen. One out of 3 today for Wilson Contreras. Really does give them, despite the fact he can play outfield, an interesting situation behind the plate. Suarez cannot come up with a bare hand pick. Contreras will get himself an infield single there. He He's on base for the 3rd time today.
Contreras may be one of the more athletic catchers in the league because he gets down the line very quickly. That's why Suarez figured he had to barehand that ball. We've seen him play left field. We've seen him move all around the place. I imagine in the future they're thinking he may be the everyday catcher. Of course, this is the last year for David Ross. I believe they got another year on the contract of Miguel Montero. So they're planning for the future with Contreras.
Montero not hitting much this year, only 195. We remember him as a pretty good offensive player out with the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, they like the way he frames pitches, Montero. But they did expect a little more offense than what they're getting.
Between Montero and Ross, a couple of wily veterans, they can show Contreras the ropes a little bit. There's the former Red, David Ross. You can look at the numbers. See that the best offensive year he had was as a member of the Reds. Ross Ohlendorf is throwing in the Reds bullpen. Russell's had a big day today. 3 runs batted in, been on base 3 times. One time he was retired, he lined out to left. A nice play on the ball by Adam Duvall. And from 3-0 to 3-2. Boy, Addison Russell has been a hard out today for the Reds, but they get him here to win the 7th. Pick. Did I hear him say barbecuing tips? I think I heard him say barbecuing tips.
That's something about him I did not know.
You know, Pick, the kind of guy I would figure that'd be a big backyard griller.
I think that he would be more of a lasagna guy, maybe a little eggplant parmesan tips, but backyard barbecue. You learn something new about your colleagues and your teammates every day.
He's probably throwing a big barbecue back in his ranch after this game today. New pitcher on for the Cubs is Pedro Strop. He steps off as the Cubs shift defensively, putting 3 infielders on the right side against Jay Bruce. Jay is 0 for 3. Toward the middle, diving stop and throw, but not in time. And Bruce legs that out. Good effort out there by Addison Russell, the shortstop, keeping that ball on the infield, but Bruce gets himself a hit.
Well, they keep one guy over there on the left side, but he has to come a long ways. He ranges up behind the second base bag, and Bruce is running well. I mean, he runs hard down the line every time, but especially when he smells an infield hit.
Good to see him get on. He had been 1 for his last 18. He did not have a good series in D.C. He gets the 8th Reds hit. Now it's Adam Duvall. Hit today and a sac fly, 1 for 2. Strop on the year with a 290 earned run average. In fact, he's had 4 consecutive years, all as a Cub. But he's had an ERA in the bullpen of under 3. 2 years ago, his best, 2.21. In his career, he's averaged over a strikeout an inning. Same thing this year, 43 Ks, 31 innings pitched. Down on strikes goes Duvall. David Ortiz, Bryce Harper, Mike Trout, and all of baseball's superstars come together for the primetime event that will light up the summer. What is it? That, of course, is the MLB All-Star Game from San Diego in just 1 week from tomorrow, and only on Fox. Next Tuesday night, beginning at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Now Blake Wood will be lifted. Ramon Cabrera will bat for him. Cabrera's done a nice job as the backup catcher for this team after the so-called cup of coffee late last year in the big leagues. Had a hit yesterday. Now he's a hit in 13 of his last 15 games this year as a Reds starter. Chases Almora back. 2 out. Blake Wood, an inning and a third, no runs, 2 hits. Ross Ohlendorf will pitch the bottom of the 8th inning for the Redlegs. Billy Hamilton bats. Hitless today, 0 for 3, 1 for 17 now on this road trip for Billy. Remember, he was on the concussion disabled list, Billy Hamilton, from the 10th through the 16th of June, activated on the 17th, but since his return in 16 games, he's hitting just 167 going into today. Today hasn't gotten any better. It's too bad because he was on the heels of a very good stretch. He had hit .329 his last 20 games prior to going on the concussion DL.
2-2. Jose Peraza is in the on-deck circle to bat for Barnhart. Over the mound, Russell, and the inning comes to an end. Reds leave a runner. They've stranded 6. Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio has been brought to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to say big store wide. Great food, low prices at Kroger. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. We'll be back in action here again tomorrow with Reds baseball, 30 minutes before every game, of course. We'll have Reds Live coming your way. Reds Live pregame on Fox Sports Ohio, presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Tomorrow, the starters in the game will be Brandon Finnegan against John Lackey. Second of the 3-game series. Reds did not see Lackey in the series in Cincinnati last week. Lackey on the year, 3.27 ERA, the former Cardinal. Finnegan coming off a poor outing his last time in Washington. Couple of changes for the Reds. New battery, Ross Ohlendorf is pitching. Ramon Cabrera is now catching. And see get a look at that chest protector he was wearing there?
I did not see it.
Get another look at it. You'll appreciate it. How about that?
I like it.
Good look there for Ramon. New center fielder also for the Reds is Jose Peraza. Takes over for Billy Hamilton. That's Ohlendorf on Friday night in Washington. He suffered the loss in that 15-inning game given the Reds good work through 2 innings, the 12th and the 13th. Went back out there for a 3rd inning, hit a batter, retired the next 2, but then Ben Revere doubled to the right center field wall, driving in the winning run in that game. For Ohlendorf, this is appearance number 37. Let's bring in our good friend Jim Day. Jim, you had a chance to talk to Ross about the pitching change, right?
Indeed I did, as Cozart goes deep in the hole, and it's a really good play. I'll get back to that story and let you guys look at this replay.
Well, call it first is out. Let's see if the Cubs elect to try to challenge that. We'll get another look at it and see whether Cozart comes up with a dandy play or if Hayward has himself a base hit here. They're going to take a look at it. So the Cubs will challenge this at first base. Jim, while they're challenging and taking a look at it, what do you have?
Well, I talked to Ross Ohlendorf and a few pitchers about Mark Riggins being relieved of his duties, and you could tell that he felt responsibility, or at least partly responsible for it. He says, as pitchers, we feel badly because he had to take the fall for our lack of production. You don't have to look anywhere further than me looking in the mirror. He knows he's had a tough season, as well as much of the bullpen. And as pitchers, we're responsible for doing a better job. He said Mark was a knowledgeable guy. He liked him. It is part of the business of baseball, but that whole pitching staff felt for Mark Riggins today because he was the fall guy for their lack of production. Very honest response from Ross Ohlendorf.
You said it during the pregame show, and you were up here in the booth, and Chris has said it. You can't fire the whole staff, so in the end, somebody takes the fall, and in this instance, it was Mark Riggins. That call at first base has been overturned. It was technically a crew chief review, and Hayward has himself a base hit. Still a good effort by Cozart.
Good effort by Cozart. The Cubs this year, just in case you're wondering, coming into this ball game, they had 22 challenges, and they were exactly 50-50 in being able to overturn those 22. This was not an official Cubs review because Joe Madden asked the crew chief to get the team together, the umpire team that is, and call back there to New York and find out what's going on. The Reds have had, in case you're wondering, 28 reviews, and they're slightly over 500 in getting those babies overturned.
Bruce is going to make the play on this ball, and he does. So Candelario retired for the 3rd time today. And the first out here in the bottom of the 8th. Pitcher spot is scheduled to be up there, and the Cubs will pinch hit. Jason Hamill, a starting pitcher, will bat here. This is the second pitcher the Cubs have used as a pinch hitter today.
You know, that's part of the Joe Madden, myth / persona, where he tries to get everybody into every game. I mean, mentally, not into every game to play, but I mean, you're always doing some kind of fun thing, so when you come to the ball game, and if you're Jason Hamill and you're thinking, there's no way I'm coming here today to get in a ball game, I'll just wear my gym shoes, he may tell you, hey, put your hitting shoes on. You never know what's going to happen. He was throwing a bullpen here before the ball game, and here he is in the 8th inning getting the swing to bat.
He has pinch hit before. In fact, he's 0 for 4 in his career as a pinch hitter. Now, that shocks me that he would have pinch hit, probably extra inning games.
Well, exactly. So why not take an opportunity like this to do that rather than lean on the same guys that you have? And chances are he's never going to pinch hit in a high leverage situation, but you really do never know. A pretty good batting average for a pitcher. Got a big strike zone. I think that Hamill is about 6 feet 7 inches tall.
Yeah, he's driven in. I mean, the guy has 7 RBIs this year, for goodness sakes.
Pretty good about halfway through the year.
Swing, and he knocked it down at Ollendorf. He kept it on the infield, but that's going to be a pinch hit single, the first hit of his career as a pinch hitter for Jason Hamill.
So now both of the Cubs pitchers who have come up to pinch hit, Travis Wood ended up staying in the ball game, have gotten base hits. I mean, is it a Cubs year or is it a Cubs year?
Wow.
Not getting that ball by Ross Ollendorf. Knock it down.
So Hamill runs the bases along with Hayward with 1 out in the bottom of the 8th. Cubs up 10-4. Almora popped it up, playable. Cabrera handles it. So 2 out, the top of the order now, and Javier Baez. There's a good look at that chest protector. I mean, that hasn't been shipped in today, obviously, specifically for this game. I don't remember whether Barnhart had that on or one like that on or not when he was catching earlier in the game, but that looks good on the chest of Ramon Cabrera.
Are we still waiting to find out if baseball will be part of the Olympics?
I don't know the answer to that.
I thought when George Grand was last in town, he's very involved with Baseball USA. He was mentioning that. That'd be an ideal piece of equipment for Team USA to be wearing.
Chest protectors have come a long way since the old days when they were just orange and they didn't cover the shoulders very well. They were soft padded versus these are now really thick, dense padding. Sometimes you wonder how those catchers back in the day survived.
All gnarled fingers. Used to be able to tell a catcher from anybody else on a team just by looking at his hands.
Got that shoulder protector now, guarding the right shoulder, his throwing shoulder. Tell you what you still see, though. Johnny Bench years ago got it out of there. That right hand, getting it out of the way. You see so many catchers get foul balls off the hand because they don't want to get that hand out of the way. Bench used to put that thing behind his back.
He pretty much redefined the catching role when Johnny Bench came around.
Yeah, the chance to talk with Johnny and do a little Q&A with him at the Hall of Fame induction banquet that night. Last Sunday, a week ago Sunday, the Duke Energy Convention Center as part of the Reds Hall of Fame weekend. There's a storyteller right there now. He can tell a story or two. Baez frozen on the breaking ball of Ross Ollendorf, putting an end to the bottom of the 8th inning. Moment of the game brought to you by Miller Lite. Not actually today's game, but in this ballpark, we harken back to July the 4th, 2010. 6 years ago, Drew Stubbs, home run number 1. This one, home run number 2. Does he have another one in him? Yes, he does. Drew Stubbs, a 3-home run game. That one over the bleachers in left. 3 home runs on the 4th of July, 6 years ago. Our Miller Time moment of the day. See, they had a barbecue type fare here in the ballpark cafeteria today. So we had our hot dog, we had our baseball, now we just need our apple pie. Jesus out to start the 9th inning. Pardon me, Peraza.
First pitch swinging against Hector Rondon. Rondon is a closer. Of course, the Cubs, having been swept in New York, had no use to use him during that series in his normal role. 13 saves on the year. He is now pitching in major league game for the Cubs, 210. The Cubs got him from Cleveland in the Rule 5 draft in 2012. That's one of those Rule 5 draftees that really worked out. You don't see it happen very often. So when you pick up a future closer, of course, the Cubs in 2012 were going through the kind of season that they were just trying to nurture along young players, hopefully get better for the future, and here they are.
DeJesus, who had a base hit in the 7th, gets a base hit here. So 1 on, 1 out. Reds get their 9th hit of the game. Yeah, 2012 was the worst of those years. They had 4 years in a row. Maybe even 5 if you go back to 2010. They lost 85 plus games, 5 consecutive years. There's 1. There's 2. That's a double play, and then ends the game here on the 4th of July in Chicago at Wrigley Field. The Cubs' mastery of the Reds continues here this afternoon. They win it by the final score of 10-4. They've now won 5 straight and 13 of the last 14 against Cincinnati. We'll come back with more after this.